No one cares about my technology if the car doesn't look good. I've tried that.
The other side of it.
Yeah, it's just, okay, people even judge your tech based upon the aesthetic of your car. Like, oh, if you can't even get this right, how are you gonna make this work? How's your engine gonna run? How's your motor gonna run? So aesthetic is important, and I'm learning that.
I'm really guilty of it. I can appreciate one thing, but if you've done something over here, I immediately dismiss everything.
There you go.
So I try
That's
to
natural.
just focus in and appreciate what's right and not so much what's wrong. But as a builder and being a competitive builder all the years, you're just like, what happened there?
Exactly.
I assume everything else is junk.
Exactly.
So it's something that's, you got to lean into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to bring in other people to get you to the rest of the way.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Welcome back to another episode on Modify with Trick Factory Customs. If it's your first time watching, my name is Elvis.
Tim,
Rob,
Alex.
Bisi,
Yeah. Or Bisimoto. Awesome. We've had you on before.
Yes.
You build amazing cars.
Thank you.
It's pretty cool to see where you started from to where you're at now and all the evolution in your business and life. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. It's been a great journey, nonetheless.
What have you been up to?
Yeah.
There's been so much from the last time we spoke to you to now. And so, we just wanted to find out what's been going on.
No worries, no worries. For those of you who've known me for a while, and for those of you who don't know me, I've always been a die-hard petrol head. From day one, I focused a lot of my attention on drag racing, small displacement, high RPM engines, making just tons of power, creating opportunities where others just didn't care about them, using D-series engines, single cam engines. And then as we talked about last time in our interaction in 2019 or so, I decided to kind of delve a little bit into electric car performance. Not that I wanted to do it, but I was kind of forced because a lot of my OEM partners were going that way. And I wanted to still be able to service them with our technology. So I reluctantly built my first EV and loved it. Fell in love with the power, the torque, the fact that it had zero emissions, because I always had a weird, some people give me flack about this, but I've always had that weird guilt about having a lot of performance cars and knowing what I was putting in the atmosphere from a tailpipe.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through significant measures to switch my cars to alcohol burning fuels.
Okay.
And then having an EV where there's zero tailpipe emissions made me feel even better.
Yeah.
So since then, since we last spoke, we've been building a plethora of EV. Even at SEMA this year, we have 5 vehicles in tote. That's which
wild.
is crazy. Of those 5, 4 of them are electric performance vehicles.
Oh, wow.
And then 1 petrol.
So you still do some petrol?
I do. So
Okay.
internal combustion engine does run on flex fuel, but that is the one thing I built, which still garners a ton of attention.
Which one is it?
If you go into African American Auto Association booth, there are 2 Bisimoto based 935s there. There's one that's a twin turbo silver one with like a orange-red stripe around it, very elegant, paying a nod to the old school Group 5 pod.
Yeah.
And then I have a Moby X there that's in this crazy championship white. So for you Honda heads, you know what I did there. Championship white color with a very nice livery, really influenced by the fashion industry. There's a gentleman by the name of Harrison Hugh from Acronym. Him and another talented designer from Canada known as Rafrani got together and came up with a scheme, and there it is.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. It's just, I don't know, you guys can talk about it, but it's just awesome to see 5 cars. You're probably bouncing between all of them.
Yeah, luckily for me, they're in 3 locations. The Rolls Royce, which is our first foray into English performance or English luxury performance, is here in the Trespass.
Yeah.
And then in the African American Auto Association booth, there are 2 935 tributes. And then once you make your way towards the end of Central Hall, there's this place known as SEMA Future Tech,
Okay.
where everything in terms of mobility and racing in the future of that is really dedicated to. I have a vehicle known as a Kalani. Looks very much like a Speed Racer Mark V.
Kalani?
It's a Kalani, yes.
Okay.
And then I have partnered with Honda once again. It's been about a decade since we worked together. And we did a very hip, very unique prologue for them.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It looks amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
It's so awesome. And so far out of those 5, which one is like, has your heart? You're like, oh, this is the best.
Oh, that's a great question. The Kalani is pretty good.
Oh, really?
That thing is unique. It's a one of one. Luigi Kalani was no longer with us, was a very talented German, from what I understand, a German designer who identified with Italy.
Okay.
So a lot of his concepts and builds, whether from toilets to furniture to automobiles to motorcycles and bicycles, were very organic in nature. So he created this thing It was a salt flat vehicle named Utah 8. Had a motorcycle engine out of BMW initially. Didn't do quite well, so we've now updated to a 298 horsepower electric power plant, which is terrifying. Coming in here was an excursion. Really, back in is scary. I need to turn the power down big time. Yeah, big time. So that's kind of my favorite one, I would say. And then there's something about the petrol one that gives me that nostalgia, and the attention is gathering here. It's pushing me to think about something exciting for next year, which maybe I'll talk about here.
Ooh,
Maybe I will. But anyway, okay. Yeah.
So do you want to talk about it yet, or did you guys have any?
Okay, let me see. I'll give a hint. Because of what I've seen this show, with the attention to the twin turbo setup, with the, twin Garretts and so on and so forth, it's actually putting me in a position where I want to accelerate a project for next year. And hint is, and I'm saying this here because no one's heard this, hint is it will be internal combustion, but the tailpipe will only have steam. That's all I can say.
Steam.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I think I have an
And it's
idea
going to
where you're
blow,
going.
it's going to be an air-cooled flat 6
Okay.
with a sequential gearbox and steam coming out exhaust, but it's going to sound and behave. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's so wild.
That sounds incredible. Thank you, and leave it to you to come up with something
Go.
that literally is innovative like that.
I said it first here, and when we get together, same location next year,
Wow.
we'll be most likely sitting in front of it.
That's
So we all have something really big to look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's pretty cool that you're still innovating.
Thank you.
All of this, because it's easy to stick with what you know, like just gas, which I used to be in the Hondas and all of that. I mean, you're probably still into Honda.
Yeah.
You're working with Honda, but at the same time, it's really cool to see the innovation. You still think about pushing things forward and pushing things beyond what you already know.
That is what I enjoy, to be honest with you. Even when I was racing, did very well, broke tons of records, secured championships, but I wasn't racing for the sake of wanting to go fast and race cars. I have fun racing. It was the best way for me to realize my experiments.
Yeah.
To see if what I did worked, how it works, how it's better. I tried having other drivers. The feedback wasn't as solid. We didn't have then the data logging equipment we have today. So everything was kind of mostly seat of the pants. And that's what I did. I just wanted to realize that I love improving.
Yeah.
So that is my joy, my passion.
Yeah, you get that. That seems to be the core of you as a human. You're always looking to get your hands on and experiment with something new. Push yourself and something to a place it's never been before. And inspire other people. I get that a lot from you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's also cool too because we did you saw the EV thing, the G-Wagon that we had last year.
Yes.
But I think that was our first EV.
Nice.
Yeah, and so now we're doing quite a bit. You guys have to talk about that.
We have a bunch more of them to do, so it's been very interesting. It's definitely a big challenge.
But an enjoyable one nonetheless. When you overcome those hurdles, it feels so good. I mean, people see a lot of crazy things we build and they see them in their success state and oh, you're so lucky. We have lots of failures.
Oh yeah.
We blow things up, we burn things down, things happen to get there, but we don't see it as a detriment, but more of a learning experience to make it.
Yeah, so very true. Along the way of creating something and delving to something you'd never really done before, of course, you're going to fail a lot. Those are opportunities to learn something really significant. And SEMA and everything here kind of represents a lot of that. We see it all over the place, and it's really, really inspiring to come here, to talk to guys like you, and to see all of that here.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, the fact that you don't get married to one particular technology and you keep pushing. SEMA is amazing for seeing all those technologies and getting inspired, but it's also can kind of put you in a box because, we brought cars, and then as soon as you're that platform, everybody wants you to stay in that platform.
Understood.
And you become the guy. So to continually step out and keep pushing I don't think people understand how difficult it is. To keep yourself in the fire all the time.
Understood. It is enjoyable. I'm saying there's something about that. There's a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
When you try something new, and especially when you have people who are trying to deter you and say it's not possible, it can't happen. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, I get that from my staff. But we pushed through it like, see guys, now it's here right here in front of us, working in all its glory.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Are you guys looking at, I don't know if what you also kind of like get hinted at is a look into like hybrid technology or no, but are you guys looking to do something like that, like EV and hybrid with gas or?
So I have an unpopular position on that. I don't like hybrids.
Really?
At all. I think they're the worst of both technologies.
Oh, wow.
Hot take.
That's just me. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Okay. First of all, and that's the hybrid, was a plug-in or non-plug-in, whatever the case may be. When you're on the EV platform setup, you're lugging around this ICE mill with you. That's inefficient, lugging around this heavy mass of metal. When the petrol comes on and it kicks on, it is dirty as hell for the first few seconds.
Yeah.
It's nasty stuff to warm up, get the cat to heat up, and it's spewing rubbish.
Yeah.
And then when your EV stuff is spent, you have no more battery charge in it, you're driving on petrol alone, once again, inefficiently lugging along batteries, lugging along electromotors. That's my thing. It's inefficient in both counts. That's how I see it. I'd rather be pure ICE and make it as clean as possible, or be EV and call it a day. Just because of the efficiencies of weight and lugging things around, and when things light off, I don't care what anyone said. It's some dirty stuff for the first few seconds when the engine is cold.
And so you see like big OEMs like Porsche doing hybrids in the 911. What do you think about that then?
I have my same stance. I understand what they're doing. I'm saying this as Bisi, the engineer.
Right.
From a consumer perspective, it's smart for manufacturers to do that because a lot of people don't want to just jump into EVs.
Right.
They need this weaning process, and I get that. And there's the range anxiety is real. Now, don't get me wrong. I had that with my cars. My Odyssey runs on ethanol.
Yeah.
And I get anxious when I go certain parts of LA because I'm like, will I even find it?
Availability.
Would I even find it? So I get it. I know that anxiety is real. Same thing with EVs. If you're outside of California, I've traveled even recently to Atlanta, and I had a bit of a hard time finding charging stations in Atlanta.
Wow, even now?
I did.
Wow.
Because I'm used to LA being everywhere. So that being said, I get it. So from an OEM perspective, it's smart for them to do that. Porsche's smart because the average Porscheophile doesn't want a Taycan like a 911.
No.
Right.
Okay, but having a hybrid of sort and getting people to experience the opportunities that exist there, that's smart from a marketing perspective.
Yeah. And that's very interesting about your thoughts on hybrids. That was not what I was expecting at all.
I don't think you'll see one it has to be just absolutely, I can't even think of a concept that has to exist. They have to be such great unison together.
Yeah, they have to work in synergy.
For me to say, okay, I'm open to this, but right now I'm okay with either technology separate.
Range anxiety is a thing, and that's what I'm like, with hybrids, especially with like the plug-in hybrid electric ones that are like, I feel like that is almost the best of both worlds a little bit, but it totally makes sense. Like when you think about warming up the cats and warming up the engine and spewing out all of that.
Yeah, and your plug-in hybrid, when it's just EV, you are carrying all the weight of a motor with and gas tank. You're lugging this around, and it's not the best for efficiency for that setup. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Now, this is coming from a guy who in 2018 wouldn't set foot in a Tesla. And look at me now. So you never know what the future holds, but it has to make logical sense for me. But at this point, that's my stance.
Wow. Thoughts?
I see, like from your perspective in the way that you put it, there's a lot of value in what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
I never really thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I was going to, I built a CRZ for Honda years ago, and I was like, I always thought about that. We're carrying this integrated motor assist around with us. Case assisting, but it's there, and then sometimes it doesn't work, and it's like heavy, and okay, I'll keep working with it. I'll just focus on the petrol side of it, and as I became more mature in this space, I'm like, because people approach me with that all the time. Bisi, it'll be cool if you did this, or you did this. Combine your engine with this, and I'm like.
But are there any like potential like alternative hybrid systems like that don't necessarily use gasoline that you know of? Or no, or even, I mean, the steam thing. Yo!
Twitch.
No comment.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, is it hydrogen?
What?
Oh, you're getting warmer.
I didn't say anything. I'm just looking around the booth here.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. We're so curious to know what
It'll be exciting. I'm telling you, people are gonna lose their minds. And I want to be able to, with this project, really appeal to people who care about aesthetic, because that's very important. I've learned that this SEMA, how important that is, and also people who appreciate technology. So that cars be it.
Yeah.
I had a not so pleasant experience with one of my builds this year, farming out some aesthetic stuff, because we do technology in-house. I don't do paint and body, I don't do interior. And I just had a very tough time this year, so I'm trying to learn from that experience. And hopefully I won't have something not so positive happen again. An interior guy, he messed me up bad. So, imagine you build cars, so imagine getting a car on Saturday before SEMA's Monday. And then it's not proper. And then, what do you do? And anyway, so it was tough. It's tough. When we build cars, they look great, but a lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into them.
Yes, a lot more than
There's a lot more people realize.
along the way.
Of course.
Especially when you don't got people that are necessarily aligned with your
Amen.
vision and timeline.
Absolutely. Time.
Timeline's a big thing, and it's really hard to mitigate. So.
It is. No matter how well we run, things always kind of come up to the very end,
Yeah. Do you log like build hours?
Absolutely.
Do you wanna? Are you want to share?
I'm terrified because it would discourage others. I don't want them to be discouraged on building cars, especially those are EV in nature.
I think it's big because that way it lets you know the amount of time that went into stuff, because it's easy to see just on social media. You're like, okay, you see a picture of a car, it's a reveal day, and you see what it is.
What is that?
But you don't know the amount of time and work that went into a build.
Mine is a little unique with the team because we're always creating things that have never been done. And because of that, there's a lot of, we need to pull this out and redo it. We need to redo this. So it's very skewed towards a much higher number.
Yeah.
I mean, one of our projects was 70,000. That is not proper, right? With all the different people working on it constantly, that would scare anyone from building anything. But what it yields as a result is what keeps our organization strong and alive.
Yeah.
So and I don't want to discourage anyone from doing stuff like that. But it is a lot of work, and it's what we enjoy. The team and I, we have a great time. If you talk to any members of the Bisimoto team, it's always a fun environment, no monotony. Everything is different. Every day is different.
Yeah.
I mean, in the shop now, they're everything from Porsche 930s to a Neo EP9 that's there. To Caterham, to another Rolls Royce, a Volkswagen bus. There's a lot of variety in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Honda, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, not any one challenge is going to be the same as
No.
It's like high level prototyping.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
That's a
because
good description.
Yeah, because even in the shop, we've talked about this a lot of times, but like eating hours, or in general, like investing the time into, like, because with a lot of custom stuff, you don't know how many hours stuff
Never
is.
know.
And it's like, if you haven't dove into that particular facet or whatever you're working on, it's very difficult to determine time. And so sometimes, because we work with a lot of customers, and it's like sometimes we can't necessarily bill for.
Yeah, you're right. They'll jump off a cliff. We build them for hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of time that's even just on our own time, just sort of investing into the education side of it so that we can do what we need to do as effectively as possible, which still ultimately, because you've never done it before, like I would always base like maybe the build cost on the second one, not necessarily the first one, because we're both kind of investing in that one. So especially when we're playing with new things.
Of course.
Like if you come in and you want something we've done before, this is what it costs. If you can't afford it, I'm sorry. But when it's something like this, it's like, it's not fair to pass it on. Like it's I would say it's better to say no than it is to, put somebody through the ringer that's not necessarily expecting what they got coming. So.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, like, how many guys do you guys, or do you have?
We have a very efficient team of 5.
Okay.
Very efficient.
Does everyone do a different thing, or
Yes.
How does that work?
Yes.
Really?
So we have 2 fabricators in-house, and those in logistics is very, very important as well. So I have some logistical to do that. I'm an engineer, and I have one individual who helps me with drawing and so on and so forth. So very efficient team, and we're all hands-on people except for the logistic lady. We're all really hands-on, with mechanical things. And when things get really difficult, I can also lean on some outside people I can bring in on contract.
Yeah.
To help bring things up to speed. So it's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable. It really is. I mean, we start at 7 a.m. and by the time we look up, it's 3 p.m.
Yeah.
But as Bisi, I'm usually there when my team arrives, and I'm there after they leave as well.
That's amazing.
You know how that is. As business owners, it's tough. You have to be there. Put in the hours. It's a lot of work. I don't expect my team to work as crazy as I do, but they're there with me a lot of the times.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, like, to know how you balance, I guess, work versus like family time versus all.
It's tough. I used to really be this crazy worker.
I know. That's how I'm
glad
looking
she's
at your
gone.
wife. I'm
glad
like,
she's
where is
gone.
she?
Listen. Nonetheless, it's tough but doable. So since I'm a morning person, I can accomplish a lot when the kids and the wife is still asleep. Weekends up to SEMA, I ask for permission to make sure that I can work weekends, and that I try and make it home as much as I can, and then I make up for it after events like SEMA or the LA Auto Show or PRI or whatever the case may be. So I do carve out the time. During school time, 3 p.m. I'm done. I go home. I focus on the kids. I don't watch television. I don't pull out my laptop.
Wow.
Try not to do any of that.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it's something that's extremely important. And I give it significant importance because of
100%.
what it
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, like anybody that's trying to accomplish anything major, being a part of a team, even in your family, is this. We're gonna get into that, but like your family is very much on board with what you're working towards, and like when it's work time, you're 100% dedicated to work time, and you give it your everything. And then when that time comes to an end, which it does every single day, you'll go home, and when you're at home, your family time, you're giving it 100%.
Exactly.
So it's like maybe sometimes, like say, lead up to SEMA and all of these events that we do, yes, we're going to be in the shop a lot more often than we are at home. That's a given. But when you do spend time at home, you're there and you're making it quality time. Like you're fully invested in that moment.
Amen.
And I feel like most of our significance, if we've been in this game long enough and, we're open to communication, and this is something that they understand, and if they don't, they might not be the right one.
I agree. I agree. 100%.
Yeah, no, that's so true, because I feel like I'm still relatively new at building cars. For a while, the first year or whatever, a lot of times, I'm like, oh, I have this project to accomplish, and I start working. I just so you just spend time with the car and not me. And so we had to have some very fun conversations.
Understood.
But it's even though cars are important, but family is also important, just as, or if not more important than that too. Let's talk a little bit about technologies. For example, he's our engineer. He's had to do a lot of designing stuff in CAD.
Yes.
So do you guys do a lot of that?
We do. I use Fusion 360 as my go-to when it comes to programming. Where I have a 3D printer in-house that's of a decent size. It's a Flash Forge unit. They actually bought at CES here.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. So we do a lot of that. And sometimes if it's a product that can be put in service, like cup holders, I'll 3D print, put it in service in the cars. But a lot of times it's just be able to test fixtures and make sure everything fits properly before we create it. For example, that Kulani, we have no idea what kind of axles came out of that, what the original designer used.
Yeah.
But we want to use the same wheel stubs for it. So we 3D scanned the internals, 3D printed a model of the axle stub, converted to 930 CVs to be able to use the standardized axle setup. And when everything worked, we sent it out, got it made in 300M, put it on, now that's on the car now.
That's amazing.
So we couldn't have done anything without such technologies. It just makes our lives much easier and cuts down some of those hours that we talk about.
That's
Right?
exactly right. More efficient
Almost
use.
every single
Extremely.
day now.
Yeah.
It's our go-to. Whereas before it was a lot of problem solving, trial and error. Where this removes a lot of the error part of it.
And costs.
And costs.
And those as
Yeah,
well.
we're at a really exciting time in the industry with technology. When you start to embrace that, bring it in-house and use it like how you're describing, yes, you're solving problems so much more efficiently.
Amen.
And you're like, okay, now you can take something that was kind of substandard and you're like, maybe you had to compromise, but now we almost don't have to anymore. And it's a really exciting time to be in this industry. Getting the younger generation like Alex here on board on our team has kind of helped us evolve and step up, and it's a really cool time.
Yeah.
It's more than that. Even with the mobility solutions that we have now, think about it. When I first came into the industry, my car was carbureted. Side draft Marconi, side draft Webers, and that's what we had. And the fuel injection performance arena was still in its infancy. And then move forward a little bit, we get into fuel injection. Then we get into crazy stuff with direct injection, with not just just not multi-point or port injection. And then now we have this whole new arena, relatively new arena nowadays of performance EVs. And then another propulsion fuel that you just mentioned a moment ago, that's coming to play as well. I remember hearing something vaguely. So that being said, we are in a very unique time where you and I have access to so many different ways of transportation, so many different fuels that we could use. It's exciting. I don't think there's any time in the automotive industry where this variety could occur. No other time.
No.
Yeah.
Even back in the day when there was steam and there was electric motors and petrol stuff was still in its infancy, those are really three. Nowadays, we have so much at our disposal. So as an enthusiast, as a builder, as an engineer, for me, it's a great time to be alive.
Yeah.
It is. I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Were you like pretty quick on to adopt it, or is it something?
I've
you
always
just
been an
learned?
early adopter. I mean, anything, if tomorrow we can do, if we're doing ammonia, I'll jump on it. Even though some people are using ammonia, there are ammonia engines out
Really?
there. Yeah, but
Oh,
if it comes
okay.
out, if there's good performance benefits, I'll jump on that too. I love new stuff.
Okay.
When it comes
All
to
this
technology.
new stuff coming on, how do you, educate yourself in that new arena?
Many times there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
So, my parents can do a better job at describing what kind of weirdo I am.
Yeah.
But I have this weird knack of figuring things out. I don't know how it comes to me, but it does. They say my grandfather, when he was alive, was the same way.
Wow.
So I would try and reach out to maybe some of my OEM partners if I know they're playing with something with that. But a lot of times they kind of keep their cards close to their chest. A lot of it is just trying to figure it out and having it make sense. On the EV side, that's something also we talked about in the show when we interacted before. A lot of people are treating it like black magic, and I couldn't get insight. YouTube is limited. People just do that for clicks.
Yeah.
You talk to other people, they see as a competitor, and they don't want to share anything with you. I talk to my OEM individuals, but they have their own OEM spec that's not very performance oriented. So you just take bits and pieces from your peers that you can, be able to grasp, and then just kind of put your own twist onto it
Okay.
and develop yourself for what your goals are.
Yeah.
And honestly, all my goals for all my cars are to scare my clients. So
That's a good goal.
if it's not crazy fast and fun, I'm not interested in that. And that's one of the things we talked about, and you weren't here part of that, but our first interaction was where I felt that EVs were for people with hemp sandals and tree huggers and didn't care about performance, so I didn't want anything to do with it. And I thought it was getting quite political at the time until I built my own first performance one with mine that I wanted a lot of power, and it was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And that's it. So if it can go fast, I'm down for it. And I'll bend over backwards to learn the technology.
Yeah.
And figure things out, blow things up.
That's pretty awesome.
Hopefully not my arms.
Looking at the SEMA show in general, I wanted to have you been able to walk around properly?
Limited, because I've been triangulating between the three booths where my cars are, and I'm having a lot of meetings and meeting great guys like you, having fun with you, which is good, right? So I have not, but in the few places I've been, I've seen some very interesting automobiles, especially in Central Hall with the domestic market. I am shocked about how they're embracing modern tech nowadays, from fuel injection to turbocharging. That used to be something that wasn't embraced in that community.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing sick builds. I'm seeing like Ring Brothers level builds
Wild. Yeah.
with some major technology in it.
Yeah.
They're on PDMs, they're on keypads. I'm like, wow, I'm pretty excited about that, When back then it was just flying toilets and it was just really old carburetor stuff and
Yeah.
nothing really embracing of modern tech. So that makes me happy seeing that.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. And do you have any specific builds that stand out or that have stood out to you so far? Except apart from yours, obviously.
I saw this Red Bull liveried McLaren, I think,
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Mad Mike.
Yeah.
with the rotary in it.
rotary.
I'm like, what is? I'm like, I never knew that car existed. I'm always in my bubble, but that looked really cool, and I would love to hear how that thing sounds. Probably ridiculous. So that stood out to me.
Yeah.
That one car was, pretty nice.
That one is definitely, it'll stop you in your tracks. That's a beautiful car.
So, what part stood out to you more? Was it just the overall package, or was it like the rotary? The size of the turbo is like bigger than both our heads.
I think it was the entire project. I like weird stuff, and it's really weird. I mean, at first I saw, I'm like, okay, it looks like cool, but okay, something is devoid in the rear. It's kind of lacking some panels in the rear. So I go to the back, like, no, he did not. No. So I appreciate that, and as I pay attention, I'm looking to, how he plumbed everything and how things are connected and his wiring and his motor mounts, and like a lot of thought went into this build. Some people just throw things together. That was thought out.
Yeah.
And so I'm impressed by those things that maybe other people won't pay attention to. So I'm looking at motor mounts, I'm looking at weird stuff, and it's a good car.
It's insane.
It's really massively impressive.
Yeah. And so, are you interested in rotary? I don't think
always
we talked
have been.
about that before. Actually.
Yeah, so those Wankel engines, whether you're looking at some of as early back as early prototypes to the 12A, 13B, 20Bs, I love those things. I love their simplicity. The fact that it has a lot less moving parts than a standard internal combustion engine. And the sounds are pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Generates a lot of heat, generates a lot of noise, but that's okay. And it's also a lightweight power plant, you know? I love how they used to get banned, many times in IMSA when they were racing. Some of the, I think it was a 767B or something. Always got in trouble. I love it.
Yeah.
So as I quoted Mazda, because we're still in talks from time to time, I always want to build something new for them with a new platform and something old where I can finally get my hands onto a Wankel engine and just building something that my way, It won't be a street port. Maybe something peripheral.
Yeah.
Peripheral. I'm just okay. Just go for the gusto.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love those things. They're efficient.
Yeah. I was just curious because you've never done rotary or anything before. So
Everything I've done has been in conjunction with an OEM. So if you ever see me with a Mazda, it's because we're doing something together.
yeah.
At this day and age, I can't justify really just opening up stuff on my own. I would like to have some OEM support to make that happen.
Yeah. So how does that work? Do you for this idea that we've been shooting with it? Do you? I'm guessing you're probably doing it with an OEM, right?
Yes.
So do you come up with the idea and
Trying
go
to
with
get me in
them,
trouble
or do
here.
they-
I can sense it.
No, but usually, let's just in general.
Okay, in general.
Let's just even use
Okay.
previous projects. Do you come up with the idea and then you approach them, or
That's
do they
correct.
come up with you and be like,
No.
hey, we're okay?
100% of the time, it's been something from the Odyssey, which was, we were told it was stupid, by the way, the Odyssey, which ended up being my most popular project to date. But something like that, coming up with a concept van that is high performance. As someone who started a young family, I wanted to really not give up my need for speed, but also have something that has a lot of space to haul the kids around in. And that was presented that way and was rejected. But then Chris Martin from American Honda, Chris, I love you. Thank you so much for being there for me for all these years. Chris Martin ignored his boss's rejection and said, I think it's a good idea. We should do it, and bypass and did.
Pretty wild.
And it ended up being wildly successful, So to long answer to a short question, yes, we come up with a concept, we present to OEM, either through their PR or marketing departments or even the third parties, or maybe sometimes directly with the, like I saw John Akeda from Acura. I was talking to him. So sometimes I'll go straight to the top and say, hey, CEO, here's what I have in mind. Like, you're crazy, let's do it. And that's how it usually comes to light.
That's so awesome.
And times where it does not, let's say like the first electric 935, where I had no support, I did it anyway. I just took a loan, built that, and it changed my life. So
Yeah.
it was good.
That's so awesome. And with the Porsches that you've been doing, 935s and all of that, have you gotten, has Porsche been like, oh, this is cool?
Yes, great. So that's something else that has happened since I spoke to you guys last. I have been bestowed with the honor, courtesy of the Peterson Museum, where Porsche really celebrated their 75 years of existence as a brand with the Peterson, and they had two of my automobiles
Oh my,
in their exhibit for about a year plus.
that is
Representing Porsche, and it was really great because being an African there in a Porsche, and then the only electric vehicle in the entire display. So
Wow.
that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So they've been quite embracing of what I've been doing, and really admiring my desire to merge new technologies with the beauty of classic old Group 5 vehicles.
That's pretty amazing, especially with this culture of everything we post. It's like, oh, here comes the cease and desist.
Yeah.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say this. So it's pretty cool that they, are participating like
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I just couldn't wear my Porsche hub shirts anymore. Yeah, there's a do not wear those ever again. Take those off your
PR is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Sorry.
But do you see yourself doing something else with other brands, maybe Ferrari or Lambo, or even I don't know, you need stuff for Acura, Honda, and all of that, Subaru, other, or are you married to Porsche, which you do a lot, and Honda, Acura, or do you want to?
I do want some diversity. Consider me the Jay Leno of Marquise, as in, because he drives and loves everything.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm not opposed to work with other marques. We're doing some things with Nissan, which a lot of my friends are very excited about.
That's pretty cool.
They sent a Leaf to me recently, and we did some really fun stuff with that. And we've done some other things with Aria. So you may see some stuff coming to you soon from Nissan.
Oh, nice.
Mazda, we've been in touch with them for quite a while. Just haven't found the right project to make happen. And yeah, so I'm open.
Nice.
Even if it's something more luxury, Ferrari stores, I'm down.
Yeah.
But it has to be something that falls within our ethos. So I've been having a lot of fun. That's quite clean,
Yeah.
or relatively clean.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I'm curious to know if any of these big guys, like even Ferrari, would do like a full EV or something, because I know they're doing hybrids now.
Yes, they are.
At Lambo, same thing. Everyone is doing hybrids. But yeah, I'm just curious to know if that would ever be an option.
It would be. It would be.
But I'm just curious on what is going to separate them from the Teslas or like, because when people talk about EVs, it's like the speed and that's it. Like if it EV 0 to 100, whatever, like it's still similar acceleration. You felt 0 to 100 in 2.8 seconds and stuff. And so I'm curious to know if that would deter or like slow the sales of, if they decide to stop making like internal combustion engines, which it seems like they're headed towards. What thoughts?
Once again, it's up to the community and what they desire. As I mentioned earlier on, the hybridization of performance vehicles is a great way to get people's toe in the water. I get that. When it comes to arousing senses, and this is a little different from us enthusiasts, but for the average person out there who doesn't build cars or doesn't quite stay as intimately tethered to motorsports like we have, a car like the Ioniq 5N, which I just drove recently,
That is phenomenal.
it has a synthesized sound output, simulated shifting where it removes torque when you hit the paddles and shit. For the average guy, like for the Bisi that was 18, oh my God, that's amazing, right? So I see manufacturers allowing these performance cars to exist with an EV technology, but using synthetic means to invoke emotion. And it works. Like I was skeptical, like, okay, this is gonna be a gimmick. And I had the car for a couple of weeks and I'm like, this is quite impressive. Now I was very impressed with how they did it, but I was also impressed with how realistic it was.
Yeah, the simulation.
And I tried to put it through a phone on a post and it just didn't capture all the frequency, so it sounded really synthetic. But when you're there, it sounds real.
That's wild.
And it feels real. And like, man, and there are times I just want to be an EV, I can just drive normally, and when I have fun, it sounds like a full-on track car.
That's insane.
It's cool. So I wouldn't do that to my cars. I feel that my Bisimoto performance EVs remain as analog as possible, but with the propulsion of electric and give me that natural sounds that are amplified. But apart from that,
Yeah.
I think the OEMs are going in the right direction. I really think they are.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. They're clearly listening to what people are like concerned about. Like, they're like, and that seems like a really nice solution for a lot of people. Yeah, to add the feeling of soul and character back into it.
It seems to be the sticking point in people's attitude and transition to EV is always like the visceral part of it.
Understood.
So like that's like their talking point. Like, yeah, but it doesn't sound this way or it doesn't do this. So it's like,
But I also have my own thoughts around that, because if you really think about Teslas, they're more like software-defined vehicles than even just fun transportation cars. They just so happen to have this amazing acceleration. And when people compare the sound of even a Tesla Model S Plaid that I have with a C8 Corvette, I don't think that's a fair comparison, because the Tesla is a four-door commuter saloon. It's almost like comparing a Ferrari to a Corolla.
Yeah. Oh,
Because these cars are made for the masses. They're not made for high performance. Now, if you go to a Rimac, they're not quite. It's ridiculous. It's
have
just
you
amazing.
one before?
Not from afar, not personally driving one. I've not driven one myself, but from what I've seen, it's an amazing automobile. Now, that's a performance EV compared to a performance ICE car. Come Bisimoto, what I do is give similar opportunities. We take an old Porsche, it stays the same. No screens, no buttons, no keypads. It has a factory shifter to initiate gear. The key turns like factory pedals. It looks and smells like an old Porsche until you touch the pedal. And it doesn't leak oil. Oh. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so
I'm sorry, I get too excited at this stuff.
I love your excitement makes me excited. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm looking forward to at some point experiencing what the Porsche feels like.
If you ever come to LA, you have my invitation, drive it.
Yeah.
All of my customers have been, some of them like, okay, I want to just do it for doing sake. Others I'm on a fence. They all drive it to tell me, shut up and take my money. It's weird. It's just, I can't explain it. And I try and do videos and people still can't. The Moby that's here It's a little more insulated because I want to be a little more luxurious. Same with the Rolls Royce. The only thing that gives away the Rolls Royce, you hear a slight hum of the power steering pump because I kind of want to give some kind of pedestrian warning because that thing is really quiet. But then the first one I built, the K3V, the pink and gray one, nothing separates you in the cockpit from the engine section.
Wow.
And you hear everything. And for those individuals saying, oh, that's brother, that's nasty, right? Petrol companies Porsche have been doing it forever. They pump in sounds, amplified artificial sounds into cabin. Manufacturers have been doing it for quite a while, whether it's directly or electronically. And this is no different. It's just instead of changing the sounds, I try and allow us to embrace the natural sounds of the electric setup.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
And so what did you do everything with that Rolls Royce or just like just the motor part of it? Like what's your involvement?
So the only thing that we didn't do in-house on that Rolls Royce was the paint and interior.
Okay.
So our paint guy did a great job, interior guy not so great, but all the technologies, all the fabrication, battery boxes, wiring, everything like that, in-house.
That's so awesome.
My good friend Ryan from Rywire helped me with a low voltage harness. So low voltage is what controls everything from the VCU to all your 12-volt accessories. But all the high voltage stuff, contactors, boxes, wiring to the contactor boxes, also for programming PDMs, everything, all in-house.
That's
We
wild.
do everything in-house. And then the tuning, of course, I'm used to doing that. And the AM VCU 275 allows me to tune just like we did petrol engines with torque curves and driving, and pedal opportunities and so on and so forth. We do all that in-house. And then I use the AM dash, which is hidden. There's a fuse box on the bottom of the kick panel where the driver sits that when it comes down, the fuse is there. It's now replaced with a AM CD5 dash.
Oh, nice.
When you close it, you don't see it, but it's there as almost like my CAN hub.
Yeah.
So I can take data because the entire vehicle is set up with CAN bus completely for all the modules and controllers. I have PDUs in the front, PDUs two in the front, one in the rear. They communicate with my onboard charger as well and combined charging unit, all through a CAN. And I use that as a hub of receiving CAN data and then transmitting to something else. So for example, with my BMS, as an engineer, you see know what I'm talking about. As a BMS, if it says, oh, turn the fan on because the battery's getting high, it communicates via CAN to my PDU. Then my PDU then turns the fan on until it gets a certain temperature and shuts it back off. But my PDU is controlled by the AM VCU, and my ORAM BMS is a different unit. And they're not made from the same manufacturer, but they do have to communicate.
Right.
Yeah. And the language is not the same language. So I use a hub as a kind of handshake for other devices to be able to transmit accordingly and make things happen.
Dang.
So we do all that programming, all that coding, all that stuff in-house. And we're good. Yeah,
You're probably going to get a call from us.
sounds good. No problem. It's fun stuff. It's time-consuming but fun, but it's what we have to do. And so when you sit in the car and you turn on, you have no idea what's going on behind you or around you. A lot of tech for something so simple as just turning the key on. Or when the key is off, your dome lights stay on for 25 seconds and then,
That's so cool.
all that is programming that no one thinks about.
For sure.
And that's why when I see a Veloster, when I see a Ioniq 5N, and I hear what they do with torque, and then my pedal position versus, and it's simulating shifting, and it changes the screen to have a tact. I appreciate that because I know a lot of programming in that. It's really crazy stuff.
So what is the time, like for example, you have the man hours to build the car. So what does doing all the programming, what does that take versus the man hours? Is it?
I don't even count that. As you can imagine, it takes, oh my God. Okay, so for the Rolls Royce, something happened at my upholstery shop and I had to do some very clever things to bypass some things that he messed up. That took me 4 hours just to correct that
Wow.
in writing some CAN language to make everything happy again. Wow. So it's 4 hours. Just for because what he did, you get a kick out. You guys have built an electric car. Vehicle's on, the main cutoff for high voltage is doing this while the vehicle's on. So pre-charge already happened.
Oh.
And he's turned on and off and killing stage. Not know, oh, what's this switch? And you don't. And as a motorsport guy, I make mine accessible so that if something happens, someone can just turn the car out. Most manufacturers have it under the seat, in the center console where you have to dig through to get to under the vehicle. As a motorsport guy, if I'm at the track and something happens, you can just reach into the trunk and turn it on. It wasn't meant for, and it has maybe 200 cycles on this large thing. It's not meant for constant, Yeah. And I knew because I look at logs oh, what was he doing? So it's things like that.
Yeah.
On the other side, it challenges me to make my vehicles more idiot-proof.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what could I do to allow the safety, but not allow some random kid to just be switching things on and off, without wreaking havoc to my system? But just going over to, to bypass some of the damage that happened with that, took me 4 hours on the ride just to make that happen.
Dang, dude.
So it's a lot of work. Not to discourage anyone, it's fun. It really is. I enjoy it. It's like gardening. It's cool, like relaxing, but it's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Wow.
No,
It's cool listening to it because us coming from like a hot rod background, most of our focus here was always like focusing on like execution and craftsmanship and all this like final finishes and all that kind of stuff. And now watching it transition so much to the technology side and all the different options that you have, it's like you kind of step away from that because things are being built on such a crazy high level now that it's almost, like, okay, you guys got that. Now this part of it coming in is like, that's where I find myself spending most of the time with all these little solutions that people have come up with. So it's a pretty cool time. And then talking with you, transitioning from like technology. I'm trying to keep up and it's like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun though.
But on the same token,
Challenges.
I have mad respect for what you do because that attention to detail, that craftsmanship, I didn't come from that background. I was a racer and I remember I don't know if you guys have this where you're but there's a company called Mako out in the great, and it's just rubbish paint. And it's oversprayed, but I didn't care. I just want to go fast. And then that's still ingrained in me to today. So sometimes I find a big challenge going above and beyond to do the details that you are accustomed to. That's like me learning new technologies that I cannot master. And then that's when I many a time outsource, like, okay, this is not my expertise. I'll send it here. And then I get not so great results sometimes. So in other words, I appreciate you doing that in-house and mastering that because it's very difficult. It's not an easy task at all.
Yeah, but see, that's why we all have to mesh together as a team.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah, because it's not possible to do it on your own. I mean, even traditional hot rod building, working with metal, to even getting Alex on the team to help with engineering stuff and scanning and all those things. It's just easier and better to get someone that knows the ins and outs of everything.
For us, it's even like a little bit like you're almost making yourself obsolete.
Yes.
Like very true. So it's like a mind like, hey, if we're gonna keep going, we gotta basically, outmode ourselves and bring this other stuff in. So it's been a big transition, but it's pretty awesome. Like what we can do now is a lot of fun.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's cool that again you recognize the part of like there's so many different facets to it. Like going fast, you love going fast, which you love to do, but the focusing on the attention to detail and all of that, that's cool because it's like it shows like you have the potential or you see the potential always for growth.
Of course.
And it's always like you don't stick to what you know and stick to your guns, and you always see potential for growth.
Or to be honest with you, no one cares about my technology if the car doesn't look good. I've tried that.
The other side of it.
Yeah, it's just, okay, people even judge your tech based upon the aesthetic of your car. Like, oh, if you can't even get this right, how are you going to make this work? How's your engine going to run? How's your motor going to run? So aesthetic is important, and I'm learning that. And that once again, coming to SEMA, this is the Mecca, this is the place to be. Everything is here. I see beautiful stuff here.
Yeah. It's so true. That it all has to play together, right?
Yes.
I mean, the finished result is like a story of all the different sort of skill sets coming together as one. And like you said, you don't want to be discredited for something so phenomenal that you can't really see if you can't get past something.
I'm really guilty of it. Is I can appreciate one thing, but if you've done something over here, I immediately dismiss everything.
There you go.
So I try
That's natural.
just focus in and appreciate what's right and not so much what's wrong. But as a builder and being a competitive builder all the years, you're just like, what happened there?
Exactly.
I assume everything else is junk.
Exactly.
So it's something that's, you got to lean into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to bring in other people to get you to the rest of the way.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. And so I think that, and do you guys have anything else to add? I think, this has been so much fun.
Awesome.
It's been awesome hearing the glorious words of wisdom. It's always like hearing you talk. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just,
You're too kind.
It's so, so yeah, it's amazing. And I feel I've learned so much just from even our hour-long conversation now. Which is why I'm like, oh gosh, we're like at an hour.
Oh, wow, time flies. All right.
Yeah, but it's really cool. And so we look forward to seeing all of the wild things that you have like planned. Like it's always exciting. Every time I see a post from you, I'm like, oh, Bisi has something. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be awesome.
Best is yet to come.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
If you guys like this, give this a thumbs up, subscribe, or follow Bisi at Bisimoto. And we will see you guys later. Bye.
Cheers.